Hello and welcome to BonkTable. I'm Mass and this is another Conquest Battle Report. Today I am playing 100 Kingdoms. I know, once again, surprise, surprise. I'm kinda starting to think about tournament lists because I got a tournament coming up in December. I think it's 1500 points or 2000, but I'm just kind of playing around with a couple things. I'm still playing 2000 point games. I'm probably just going to take a 2000 point list and cut it back to 1500 points if that's the case, and then just play it. And in this matchup, so I'm just kind of, I guess testing out some things, but just things that I've been playing that I know have done well in the past for myself, and I've just kind of compiled it into one list and said, you know what, I'm going to play that at 2000 points and see where it goes. My opponent is playing Wadrhun, and they bring a very low activation list. I believe they have 5 activations. One of them is a Thunder Rider Death Star, where there's like 6 Thunder Riders and a Thunder Chieftain in there. And one of them is also a Big Taunt, the TONTORR. So I was really excited to actually play into them today. Well, I guess yesterday. But I was really excited to play into them. And let's go to lists, and I'll explain all the shit in there. Wow, look at that transition. Here are the lists. Okay, so this is my 100k list. I called it the only list that matters, and this is literally just something I had to type in because I was talking to the 100k players in the BonkTable Discord, and I kind of quickly whipped it up, and I looked at it, and I kind of went, you know what? I think this has legs, and I gotta play it. And there's a couple other things I gotta play that was shown from the other 100k players. But this is what I made, and I'm just going to walk you through it. So, first character is Imperial Officer with the Rapid Deployment Supremacy. This guy's a Warlord. He's got 2 Battlefield Drills, Fire First, Aim Later, and on your feet. So that gives you the Scoot and Shoot of the Double Time and the Fire in Advance. I got 2 units of Merc Crossbows. They're just MSUs, no upgrades, shooting their shots. I have 4 stands of Veteran Hunter Cadre who got +1 volley, so they go up to volley 3, and they get the Null Mage. I gotta remember them all, Null Mage. Most of the time, whenever I'm playing with the Hunter Cadre, I'm going up against very little magic, or it's not in range, but in this case, a Scion got very close. Well, by very close, I mean engaging with the Hunter Cadre. So I should have checked and reread my rules, but if you don't use it, you kind of forget about it. So it's just one of those things I gotta like have in the back of my head and just play Hunter Cadre more, really. Lastly, in the Imperial Officer's Warband is Veteran Steel Legion. So Standard Bearer, Drill Master for that +1 Clash. They're Clash 4. They're gonna inspire for rerolling 6s, 6 attacks each, cleave 2. Really good hammer. There's 6 stands, so you can kind of like make them go wide for more attacks, or just have those back stands as extra wounds so that you can kind of get the front 3 into combat. So that's just the Imperial Officer. Then I got my second warband, what is the Private Commander of the Crimson Tower. He is also a Warlord to give that first blessing, so blessed on all my regiments and his warband. And if you already have blessed, you either get +1 attack or harden 1. I 9 times out of 10 go for harden 1. And you choose that harden 1 or +1 attack when you declare the supremacy during the supremacy phase. Just a little bit of like, hey, this is when that triggers, and you just don't do it when the regiment activates. He's going with Long Lineage to get an heirloom, Ulflane's Roar, so that gives the regiment he's in +1 Clash and Terrifying 1 when they charge. He's going to be in a unit of Crimson Towers. Crimson Towers already have Terrifying 1. But what I really want is that +1 Clash, so that pushes him to Clash 5, and the Orders of Crimson Towers are going to Clash 4 on their impact attacks, so I can really hit with that brutal impact. It's one of the big things I want. And then I got 2 units of Order of the Crimson Tower with banners, and then I got 2 units of Order of Ashen Dawn with banners. Order of Ashen Dawn, still fantastic. Great anvils, they're fast, they're really hard to kill, they do a ton of damage. Order of Crimson Towers really pair well with Order of Ashen Dawn because they're the same speed, so you don't have to worry about one getting further ahead than the other. And then on top of that, Order of Ashen Dawn can really keep something in one spot for quite a while to really allow you to set up with your Order of Crimson Towers, what I do like. I'm starting to kind of come around in Order of Crimson Towers. I still think they're too expensive for what they're doing. And to justify their cost, they might need a couple like stat changes or something. Like they're just overpriced for what they're doing, and that's what I've kind of hitting. Like they're not bad, they're just too expensive. So I don't know, maybe a points drop or something. Like it's just weird. Besides that, that's kind of my list. I don't really have much more to say. I've really played a lot of this before, so I have a good idea of how this all works and intermingles with each other, just through like muscle memory and playing the game a bunch. And these are really a lot of my go-to units when I want to kind of be successful with 100 Kingdoms, truthfully. So I'm going to slow roll my rules, pause the video at any time if you want to read something that I haven't covered, and yeah, let me just do that. Okay, and with that, let's go check out my opponent's list. Here's my opponent's list. They called it TONTORR. They actually called it TONTORR 2, so I think this was a bunch of variations and stuff, and they just played the second one, but I forgot to add the 2 in here when I was making this. So it's TONTORR 2. Just, you know, use your mind and make a 2 right about here. They are running Thunder Chieftain, who is the warlord for that shock supremacy. Very good. I really like the shock supremacy, especially on Wadrhun, because anything that's like low clash really benefits from it, and anything that's like higher clash, so 3 and 4, they just get more out of it. So I really like shock, and it really encourages the Wadrhun player to be aggressive. So they chant aggressively, they charge aggressively, and they can do that damage and win those fights. And then, if you put it with war, you can get all the defensive bonuses, so now it makes it really annoying to kill the damn thing. So, Thunder Chieftain, I love, he's great. Brutal Impact 2, Cleave 2, he's Hardened 1 from Elder Bronchosculpts, and he gives Hardened 1 to a unit of Thunder Riders, so it's this big 6-ball of Thunder Riders. That's super exciting. They're quite large on the table, and just simply because, like, the Triceratops is fucking huge. And I was looking at that, and my opponent painted their Thunder Chieftain. Their their Triceratops is pink, and I'm kind of hoping that they paint the rest of them pink too, like just bright ass pink, because it's just like, whoa, there they are. But Thunder Chieftain, Thunder Riders, really good. At this size of 6 stands, they make a really good death ball. So because they're going to be Clash 4 due to Shock and Brutal Impact 2 with Line Breaker, you're kind of just destroying a lot of stuff. And then they have Flurry from Violence of Action, so they're going to reroll their attack rolls, but supposedly the Thunder Chieftain doesn't, because it's something that's done in the list building. I'm not exactly sure about that, because it says the regiment, and then the Thunder Chieftain is attached to the regiment, so maybe there just needs to be like some more clarification in the rules. I'm like, I don't know, like, I read a lot of stuff baseline, and it's hard for myself to figure out if it does affect the regiment or not, like, because usually it's like, it affects the character, it affects the regiment, and usually if it says it affects the regiment, it's like, okay, well, the character's in the regiment, so he's affected. But if it had a line like, it affects the character and regiment, or if it said, like, it affects the regiment, but not the character, I don't know, something to just make it a lot easier. If you do know, and you're watching this, write a comment down below and let me know, because I'm curious, and this just helps me understand and learn with the game as well. But overall, Thunder Riders, amazing death ball. They're in war, so my opponent really wanted to put all those defensive buffs onto Thunder Riders, so because they'll hit like Crimson Towers and they'll tank like Ashen Dawn, what's really good at that point. And with Hardened 1, with their defense going up to 4, with the resolve going up, I think they no, they're not Fanatics, so they can't get the Blessed, so that kind of sucks, but they will be getting Cleave 1. These guys can do a lot of work, and you really don't want to get charged by them, and something you want to do is actually just to kind of bog them down before they charge you. So when you're trying to fight against Thunder Riders, think about them more as 100 Kingdoms cavalry that are not Ashen Dawn. Do not do this strategy on Ashen Dawn, this is a bad idea, but if you just get them engaged with something, you can kind of bog them down and kill them, because a lot of their damage does come from that charge. But they do have trample, so watch out for the trample twos. It's basically like Aura Death. Then the last thing in this guy's warband is a TONTORR. We got Big Taunty, who's just bouncing around, running around the whole Jurassic Park. So my opponent didn't get a chance to have this thing go fight any of my regiments, because you'll see in the actual game that I bog it down with some Ashen Dawn, and then I charge it with some Crimson Towers, and I get the Ashen Dawn in there, get the Ashen Dawn to do some damage, get the Crimson Towers in there, and just like, they kind of just like bring it down. A TONTORR can probably live against a regiment pretty easily and get into a fight. A TONTORR does not want to be clobbered with like 2 to 3 regiments. So having something by the TONTORR to either protect its flank or to clean stuff up off of it is probably really helpful. It's a very powerful piece, but it also requires support for it to do its work. You can't just have it running off on its own. So that's the Thunder Chieftain Warband. Then we got the Matreon Queen. She is healing people with her draw event to the last to the last breath. I was gonna say to the last death, because I'm like, her warband cult is death. Let me combine these 2 words together. Woo! So she's got the healing, she's in death. She's a unit of hunters, and they have the flip mapper. So I like this because is she a heavy? Yeah, she's a heavy. She can score with them, and she can heal them. So any chip damage into hunters kind of just goes away. Like, Merc crossbows are really good at killing hunters because hunters are just defense 1. But when you have the Matreon Queen just healing all the damage the Merc crossbows do, the hunters start winning that range fight. So I kind of figured that out as the game kind of went on, and I was like, okay, let's stop shooting the hunters. Let's get something that can actually kill them, and then I'll use my range to just finish them off, kind of thing. So it was one of those where I'm like, okay, I gotta stop wasting my time just shooting these things because I don't have enough shots and quality shots to kill them. Then we got an Apex. It's an Apex. It's a good beater. Like, I have nothing wrong or bad to say about it. It's Cleave 2, Deadly Blades. It's got its Shock and Shock from the Thunder Chieftain. It's got Terrifying 2, it's Fiend Hunter. Belling War really helps it out, just getting around the table. It can get bogged down and killed pretty quick. Like, it's not hard to deal 14 wounds from a dedicated hammer regiment into something with defense 3. But it will do some good damage with its Cleave 2 and Terrifying 2 and Deadly Blades into a lot of stuff. So I do like it. It's point costed appropriately, but it really does not want to be the thing receiving hits. It wants to be the thing dealing the hits. So it's a very much an offensive piece. Lastly, we got the Scion of Conquest. This dude's got War, Beast Drums, and Focused. Beast Drums gives the character flurry, so he can reroll his attack rolls with his Cleave 2 with his 6 attacks. So that's actually really good to get a bunch of damage in. This Focus is really good because I believe the spell that is being casted is Crescendo. I'll just go find that. Yeah, here we go. Add a Conquest chant marker to the sequence. Reveal your next command card if it belongs to the regiment. Draw that command card and the regiment activates immediately. Otherwise, return to the top of the command stack. Regiments activating this way do not add a chant marker. So this is kind of their... I want to say it's a turn to tide, but it's also just kind of like a get going faster thing. So like if you activate your card, get a chant, activate him, generate a chant from him just activating, and then you crescendo. So now you're at 3 chants. And then you crescendo into the Chosen of Conquest, who are Fanatic with their 3 chants. They can activate +3 speed, +2 to their evasion, and 3rd activation. What is really good for them to just blitz up the table and really set themselves up to succeed. They are... I'm going to get more now into like the Chosen of Conquest. They are a fantastic Anvil unit. There's 7 wounds, Resolve 4, Defense 3 isn't that great, but if you just did what I said, where you chant, draw the character chant, crescendo chant, draw into the Chosen of Conquest, well, now you're just evasion 3, because it's evasion 2 plus their 1 to 3. So their evasion 3, resolve 4, that's a very powerful stat line, and something that's really annoying to actually kill, because they all have 7 fucking wounds. So there's like I do 2 damage, and like, yeah, I'm down to 5 health. I'm like, oh god. But being evasion 3 is very strong. My opponent has 5 stands of these things. They're cleave 1, they're impact 2, so they anvil very well just simply due to their stat line, and they actually do pretty good damage because they're clash 3 with cleave 1, so they're going to be, you know, doing some work as well. So kind of on like an anvil fight, they're going to start winning that fight. What they don't want to see though is being side charged from stuff. Basically, like if you're getting side charged, you're probably in a bad spot. But they also take some damage before they get their chance off, so like you really want to look at your chance and when your chance doing your chance sequence to make sure that's evasion up. Sorry, to make sure that their evasion is at that 3 before they're taking damage, because they will survive longer. If they don't have that, cleave 1, cleave 2 is going to cut that defense 3 down to like 2 or 1. The resolve is nice, but they're going to start taking a lot of wounds, and it's just going to hurt them in the long run. What else can I say with these guys? Don't expect them to like be a hard-hitting hammer though. They're a really good anvil brawler, but don't expect them just like clean house to the level of like a dedicated hammer. Like the Thunder Riders are gonna charge in and like just Death Star something, or the Ashen Dawn, even though they're a brawler, but the Ashen Dawn are just into their whole other weight class. A super heavy only comes on turn 4. So, yeah, they're a very strong anvil, and I've talked to my local Wadrhun player, and they've told me, like, these guys will sit there in a zone and just kind of, like, fight a thing to death and just win it. Just do their stat line. So I really like Chosen of Conquest. With that, I'm just going to slow roll. Yeah, I'm going to slow roll my opponent's rules. Pause the video at any time. If there's anything you want to read up on before I kind of get into the game. Yeah, that's it. So let's go look at the scenario. Here's the scenario. We are playing Bulwark. So we got a friendly objective and a 9-inch zone right there. We got a neutral objective right in the middle. And we got another 9-inch zone and an enemy objective on the right. Let's see here. Victory points. Let's talk about that. Players gain 3 VPs if they've destroyed the enemy objective marker. They gain 3 VPs for destroying the center objective marker. They gain 2 VPs for each objective zone they are seizing. You gain 1 additional VP if you are seizing 2 or more zones. You gain 2 VPs if you slain the enemy warlord. At the ends of round 3, 5, 7, 9, players gain 2 additional VPs for seizing the left objective zone. At the end of rounds 2, 4, 6, 8, players gain 2 additional VPs for seizing the right objective zone. Warlord can only be counted once, really good for 100 kingdoms. Game ends after 10 turns. So let's talk about this, the new scenario. Old Bulwark was kind of shitty to play into, just because of how the objectives lined up, just the size of the zones. I like the new change from 12 to 9, just because it forces conflict, and you can really like take over a zone if a regiment's big enough, and just really block people out really easy, or just encapsulate. Yeah, I think that's the word. You encapsulate it with your regiment if you're just big enough. The objective markers contest those zones, so the one on the right is contested by your enemy, the one on the left is contested by you, so your opponent can't just score it because they count. I think that's how it works. Someone can tell me in the description if I got this wrong, but that's how we've played it, and if it is wrong, okay, but I'm pretty sure the objective zones, or sorry, not the objective zones, the objective markers contest the zone until they're destroyed. From my understanding. I might have to reread the book, but if someone just shoots me a message in the the comments, that's great to know, and saves me some time. So, what else do I like about this? You can really decide if you're going to capture your zone and just kind of like threaten this middle objective, and then you've killed the middle objective, you're scoring your zone, and your opponent's scoring their zone, and you kind of like swing that way for both people. There we go. There we go. You can find the middle, but it's very much whoever kills that middle objective and the enemy's objective whilst controlling one of these zones tends to be the winner. The point flip thing for each turn, it's not bad. It reminds me of Maelstrom, and my problems with Maelstrom is mostly just extra tracking what I don't want to do. So maybe it can go, maybe it cannot. We kind of followed it as we went along, and it was like, oh yeah, gain the extra 2 points. I'm like, no, it's an even turn, so you don't. And it's kind of just, it's just extra stuff you kind of have to like keep track of. While if it was just the zones, I probably wouldn't mind it, because it's like, okay, you get 2 points for your zone. If you're controlling both zones, you get an extra point. Did you kill the enemy warlord? Yes, no. Did you get extra points for killing the objectives? Yes, no. Like, they're very simple asks in the baseline victory points, but then you get into like the alternating zones, and it's like, now we're rechecking the sheet at the end of every round just to see like if you're scoring extra points. So I don't know if it really needs to be in there or not. I would probably have to play it more, because it kind of didn't come up because of how I played it. You'll see me do stuff where I just like ignore the entire scenario. But yeah, I don't really mind it. It's very another thing I gotta say, it allows the board to be very open, so you can really just put terrain wherever you want, and that's really nice because you have freedom to do so. And I really like that about some of the scenarios, is that they're not constricted, but also now that the rule is you can put terrain in the middle, I'm really fine with it. And more tables and boards are kind of being generated that are actually relevant, because if the terrain isn't in the zone, the thing you're fighting over, or close enough to be relevant, it's kind of like, why was that terrain there to begin with? So that's why I like terrain in the zones. Okay, let's go look at the table. Here's the table. This is my ejector marker. This is my opponent's ejector marker. And there's the neutral ejector marker. The two big red circles are the zones. We have... oh, what do we have here? We have hindering, put an H, and skewering, so it's half shots through the forest, and you lose your impacts and your inspire if you charge through it. Or do you end up? I think you have to charge through it. Yeah. Or you gotta have half your stance. So, things, what else we got? So, there's hindering, obstructing. This is hindering, obstructing. This is hindering and obstructing. And lastly, this is hindering and obstructing. Then we got two -1 clash waters here. Just put a -1 and a clash. And then we got size 3 obstructing, or yeah, they're obstructions, giant rocks in the middle of the table. I talked to my local Vanguard about this one. He's like, oh, I just want to split the deployment more. Like, you kind of have to deploy it off to the side, and you can't just run right up the middle of the board to do a thing to gain that position. But you can run up the side a little and then wheel yourself into that position, so it kind of makes that more maneuverability. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Did it affect really much? Not a huge amount, because you just kind of deploy your stuff. I'll just do a box. Like, you kind of just deploy your stuff here or on the other side, and then you just kind of run up the table, and then you're like here, so you're still relevant. So you're still relevant to go attack that middle objective, but also you can bounce over to each side for whatever you want to do. Oh no, I'm covering the HO. So, yeah, I didn't mind it. I might have messed this up actually in the game. I'll use orange. I might have ran some cavalry through here and got my impact attacks when I really shouldn't have, because I moved cavalry through it and it was hindering terrain. So that's my bad if I did do that. There might be enough space to have two stands go through, but I don't really think so. Or maybe stuff got bumped. I'm not gonna like try and remember that, but now just like reviewing and looking at the table again, I might have made that mistake. So that's something on me, and I should be more cognizant about. But with that, there's the table. Let's go look at turn 1. Here's turn 1. I get my Imperial Officer and Hunter Cadre onto the table. My opponent gets their Hunters and Matron Queen on the table. I didn't roll any other lights. My opponent only has 1 light. So I believe I won the roll off to go first. I draw my character, they draw their character. I look at the table and I go, well, I want my character to score this left zone here. I'm going to start running my character that way. I want to start threatening the middle objective. I'll just circle in red here. So if I run up with my Vanguard run like 16 inches, I get to there. Turn 2, I could wheel the Hunter Cadre a bit, like, you know, kind of like that or something. I could shoot into the objective, do my point of damage, and then I could, because I've now done a move and I've fired, I now trigger fire for advance, so I can do another move to get the Imperial Officer into the zone to start scoring it. And I can, I don't know, I got another move because now I've moved twice, I can trigger double time, so I can fiddle around a bit more. So I have tons of movement and maneuverability to hurt that objective, get in that zone and start scoring and start putting that pressure on. And then it's going to be, does my opponent deploy anything over here to kind of counter me at that point? Or do they start putting more stuff this way to try and kill, I wouldn't say like kill their objective, but like try and secure their side before they like shift this way kind of thing. I have more activations than them, so every time they lose something, it's going to be quite a problem for them. So I'm going to be trying to actually look at what can I get away with killing and giving up the least amount, because every time I kill something, well, I've already stated, but every time I kill something, it's going to hurt them a lot more just because they only have 5 regiments that can do anything, while I have 11 regiments. No, do I have 11? No, I have 8. Yeah, I have 8 regiments, and then I got 2 characters, so I have 10 cards, so they're 8 cards, so I'm doing much better than them. Besides that, let's go look at turn 2. Here's turn 2. I have no mediums, so I get all my Merc crossbows onto the table. My opponent gets their 1 medium, the Chosen a Conquest. I look at the table, and I draw my character. They draw a character. I run up my Merc crossbows here because I'm thinking, okay, they haven't put out their, what is it? They're Chosen yet. Their hunters haven't gone. I'm probably in a safe spot where I can't get hit right away if I go here. I'm going to go my guys there. I'm going to start threatening this objective to do damage to it. Next turn. Okay, cool. So turn 3, I should be able to kill that objective and it'll be fine. My opponent finally moves the, was it Chosen onto the table. They chant their Conquest tokens and from all the other chanting, and they go +3 speed on their first march. So they march up 8, then they double march. They get to like 13, their evasion 3, and I'm like, okay, so you're over there. And I look at it and I start like checking out some numbers and how far they can go, and I move my Hunter Cadre just to be within 18 inches. And 3 of the stands can see them, and 1 of the stands goes through the terrain to get them, so they have half shots. Shoot my shots. I get 4 successes. They roll 3 saves, so I only do a point of damage. I'm like, okay, sweet, good job, dice. But I have moved up, I have shot, and now I'm going to back up 5 inches with a double move. So I back up 2.5, and I back up 2.5. So I just measure 5 inches and just back myself up. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I know that the Chosen of Conquests are probably going to kill the Hunter Cadre if they ever get into contact with them. I have no reason to be aggressive right away. I'm going to have more stuff than my opponent in the long run. And I'm going to, what is it? I can just like plink at them. Like they have very little range. Like their only range option is those hunters. And I'm kind of looking at it like, okay, maybe 2 Merc crossbows can like deal enough for the hunters, get over the healing, do a bunch of damage. So that's my idea there. I find out that's not really a great idea, and I eventually shift gears and like send a cav, like one of the Crimson Towers over at the hunters just to kill them, because I'm like, get out of here. And I want to just preserve the Hunter Cadre because I have no need for them to just die right away. Like I wouldn't be getting anything out. And if I can drag my opponent across the table, it just makes it easier for like Crimson Towers or Ashen Dawn to come in and just kind of sideswipe them and kill them. And you can see here on the left that I have my widgets, because I just like measured what 15 inches looked like just to make sure that I could drop a cav unit right in front just to cover them. Because my initial idea was like, I'll just drop Ashen Dawn there when they come onto the table. Then the Chosen of Conquest can go hit them, and I'll bless off their attacks, and then I'll just play patty cake with them until they're all dead. So that's kind of my idea over on the left side. On the right side, I'm now kind of like shifting gears to start like shooting shots into the hunters, and just see if I can do enough damage to overload the queen. Maybe I'll get some good rolls, kind of thing, and just have the hunters dead, because every time I hit, I kill. So if I just hit 15 times off of 2 regiments, like I can just wipe out the entire regiment, hopefully before the queen goes, then I'm good. And I'm kind of looking at it, so it's like, I gotta get 15, I have 20 shots, that's 3/4 of my shots, I'll probably be hitting on 3, so half, so I'm like looking at it, I'm probably might be able to get 10, what will be really good. If I can kill off 10 wounds worth, so I'll just be 1 stand left. Maybe the regiment will activate, then the queen will, and then like maybe I can do it again, and you know, there we go. But for some reason, whenever I shoot the guns, the dice are like, they only roll high, and whenever I do melee, they only roll low. So I'm like, god damn it. However, I'm giving up scenario right now, mostly because I'm dragging my opponent forward, and I can wait for my bigger, heavy hitting things to come on the table, and I can start looking at that long game. So let's go look at turn 3. Here's turn 3, and a bunch of stuff come onto the table. So for my opponent, they auto bring on their big taunt, and they get their flank. Is it flank? No, it's not flank move. Jesus, who plays this game? Do I play this game? I don't think so. They use flank and get their big death ball of Thunder Riders onto the table. I auto bring on a unit of Ashen Dawn, and I roll four dice, and I get 3 of them as 2 down. So I bring on my 2 units of Crimson Towers and my other unit of Ashen Dawn. This really puts the pressure onto my opponent, just because now all my, like, the heavies that matter on the table, and all I have is a Steel Legion for mopping up, and my opponent just has their Apex sitting back here, what didn't get onto the table. So it's kind of like, alright, if I can do some favorable cav trades, I can probably kill the Hunters, the Thunder Riders, the Chosen, and then it's just going to leave the TONTORR and the Apex to probably 2 units of Ashen Dawn and a unit of Crimson Towers, and then the Steel Legion. If I lose my Merc Crossbows and Hunter Cadre at this point, I'm mostly fine. So I'm just thinking about it like, I'm really in a good spot here. I believe I win the roll off. I do Merc Crossbows, they just take aim and shoot into the Hunters, do a couple points of damage. My opponent starts working on their chants to build up a bunch of chanting, because they want to do the triple activation with the Chosen of Conquest, because I don't know if you've noticed already, but the Chosen of Conquest were way back here. And now they're way over here. So they're you know, activating some characters, doing stuff, getting some chants. My next activation with the Merc Crossbows, you can see here they got into the woods, so I'm no longer getting obstructing shots. I shoot into the Hunter Cadre, sorry, not the Hunter Cadre, the Hunters, and I kill off a stand. The Queen they activate, do some damage back, as you can see, into those Merc Crossbows. And then at some point the Queen goes and heals them up, and you know, a stand comes back to life, and I'm like, okay, sweet. So, yay, doing work. So, my opponent has the Chosen of Conquest. The Scion goes, gets his chant. So there's 2 in the pool, crescendos into a 3rd one in the pool, draws the next card for successfully getting crescendo off, walks up 8, looks at where they are, and with a march charge, they need to roll, I think they needed to roll like a 5, because they were so far away. Like, they move up 8, then they're going to march up another 5, oh, it would have been a 6, because they have a banner. So Did I cheat my opponent? I think I cheated my opponent. So, sorry, my opponent. I cheated you 1 inch because of the banner. But they move up their 8. So there we go. And they're like 15 inches away. So they probably need a 4 with a reroll. It's not too bad. And they could have marched again to get another 6. And then they would have charged what would have been 5 plus whatever they roll, and then they would have got there. And they eventually roll the 5, and they get there. They go through the hindering terrain, so they don't get any of their impacts. I activate the Hunter Cadre, Inspire Clash, kill off a stand, do a point of damage. You can kind of see back there on that dice right over there. I'll just circle it. So now we're engaged. And now I'm like, okay, the Merc Crossbows, the Hunter Cadre, they've all activated. Let me start getting the Ashen Dawn on the table. Let me start getting the Crimson Tower on the table. So Ashen Dawn on the left here, they just run up. They're really looking at this TONTORR over here because my opponent ran that guy up. My opponent's looking to get the TONTORR onto the zone and kill that objective. Really good place for the TONTORR. Securing that zone, scoring it, killing the objective, getting more points because right now my opponent scored last turn. That'd be turn 2, so the right side, so they scored like 4 points on the right objective. And I'm still not scoring anything because my plan is just kill all their regiments because I think I can do it all. And at that point, I can then just take the last couple turns and just like super score. Then my right side Ashen Dawn just come up the table because my opponents run up their Thunder Riders, and I'm like, okay, Thunder Riders are over there. They can go fight Ashen Dawn. If I get my Ashen Dawn into the Thunder Riders first, I'm in a very good spot because I'm not getting hit by Brutal Impact. They're only getting Cleave from War. If I can activate the Ashen Dawn before the Thunder Riders chant War a bunch, I can get in there and just shank them all and do a ton of damage. So there is very much an opening where I can just kill Thunder Riders. Like, the Thunder Riders are 6 wounds, but they're only defense 3. Ashen Dawn with Cleave 1 puts them down to defense 2. Ashen Dawn are going to be putting a lot of Cleave 1 attacks just by how accurate they are. So I have a very good chance of just killing Thunder Riders. Then I do my 2 units of Crimson Tower, so this unit comes here. So this idea was that I would, what the heck is it? I would just have them like charge this objective and kill it, but then I didn't really want to get like bogged down from hunters, but then, you know, I could just charge hunters after the next turn. So there's an idea to, you know, kill the objective, get in there. You'll see next turn what I actually do, and I'll just draw it in orange so it's a little easier to see, is that I wheel, march up a bit, and then I'm here, and then I declare a charge where I connect right here, and then I close the door. And I did do my impact attacks, however that would have been illegal now re-looking at this, where I'd probably put 2 stands making more than half the unit in the woods, but that's bad on me and I should have been more cognizant about it because I think I cheated my opponent there. So my apologies, that's bad on me. We all make mistakes. And actually doing these battle reports has been really helpful for me because I don't play a ton of games, to just really review and talk about my games to just get more out of them. So I really enjoy that. Okay, so enough about my fuck-ups over there. Lastly, this unit of Crimson Towers on the left here, I have them march, so they're slightly past this front here, and they're angled so that the Cult of Conquest, or yeah, Chosen of Conquest, are going to fight the Hunter Cadre, either kill or severely weaken the Hunter Cadre, but that's still going to allow the Crimson Towers to swing into the side and deal damage there and probably kill off like a bunch of them, or all of them, hopefully. That was my plan there. Now, I was talking to my opponent, and they're hoping to do the triple activation thing again, or just do a bunch of stuff, kill off all the Hunter Cadre, and just like march so that they're behind me, and then we'll figure out like reforms, and everyone's spinning around to try and like touch each other and actually do damage, and who gets the charge off from reforming and everything. So we're kind of in that game now here, where it's like, can the Hunter Cadre hold off long enough that my opponent can't get their triple activations? Do I win the roll off and get my Crimson Towers in there before my opponent does anything? Because really, the only thing I actually care about for turn So yeah, so turn 4 is, circle in orange, is really just this fight here. Because everyone else is too far away from each other, so this is like the fight I want to win on turn 4. And then I'm just going to move stuff around and see what I can get. So that's kind of the movement there. I do need to ask, if you're in the comments, because some of you guys like to be like, the rulebook says this, and it actually does help because it means I don't look at the rulebook. Well, I do look at the rulebook, but I'm not looking at it right now, and or when I was playing this game. But I did ask my opponent, hey, I don't think you can end your movement within an inch of a friendly engaged regiment. He's like, nah, you're good. You can end it within an inch of a friendly engaged regiment, but not an enemy engaged regiment. I'm like, okay, sure. If we're going to agree on that and play it that way, cool. But I'm just like, we should probably look at that just to make sure. Because it's such a weird little, like, is it like enemies you got to stay 1 inch away from, so if they're engaged it makes sense. But I also thought, like, while friendlies were also engaged, unless you were entering that engagement, you had to stay like away an inch from as well. So I'm kind of like looking for clarification, because I'm like, if that's the case, are you okay with me bumping the Ashen Dawn over an inch so that I can, you know, keep the same position and everything and just move them over? Or I think at that point I might have just done like 3 wide and then have just one of the Crimson Towers in the back here. That probably would have been fine as well, and then I can still use that space because they're just coming onto the table. So if that was the case, like, I couldn't move my Ashen Dawn, I can't be within 1 inch of my friendly engaged regiment, I would have just done 3 in the front, 1 in the back, done. But besides that, that is turn 4. My opponent is still scoring their zone, they get another 2 points. And we're gonna go on to turn 4 and find out if any of my plans come to fruition. So let's go look at that. So, things that come onto the table: Apex Predator, Steel Legion. And let's go talk about that left battle that I was talking about. So, my opponent does activate the Chosen of Conquest. They were here. And my opponent does the triple activations, does a bunch of damage to the Hunter Cadre, but kills 3 out of the 5 stands in the unit, so the regiment's still alive. They're broken, and they're just sitting right here. I then activate my Crimson Towers. They do the swing charge around the objective and into the side of the Chosen of Conquest. Brutal Impact, Terrifying 1, Rerolling Morale, Oliphant's Roar, Wedge Clash. Even though my opponent is Evasion 3, got enough damage through, did enough resolve damage, wiped out the entire unit. So I'm like, sweet. And then at that point, I swapped to, what is it? I believe these Crimson Towers got shot by Hunter Cadre, because my opponent goes next. So they had the Hunter Cadre right here. They were like that. They got shot. I've already explained this mess up. This is bad on me. I do that move. I come in here and I charge. So I should not have got impact attacks, but I could have sat there and still engaged them. What would have been fine, because Hunter Cadre like defense 1, so I could just poked at them until they were dead. With that charge though, I do get them down to like 4 wounds, and then these 2 units of Merc crossbows kind of just shimmy over and just try and get shots and just go like here. And they try and go and, you know, try and shoot that. The Steel Legion come on much later, so they're not in the way currently. And they just shimmy over the side because the Ashen Dawn are where the Steel Legion are. And they kill off the Matron Fiend and the Hunters. So I'm like, okay, 2 out of my opponent's 5 regiments are dead. I'm in a very strong spot. My opponent counters to play the Apex into the Crimson Towers, and I'm like, those guys are probably gonna die. That's not gonna be fun. So let's keep going. My opponent looks at their Thunder Riders, and I don't really need to come forward because I can kind of just like shoot at them. So they just kind of set themselves up. They just kind of move over here because they're kind of looking to like get the drop on, but now they're not being supported by anything and don't have anyone to cover their flank, and I have more cards, so I just put my Ashen Dawn at the bottom of the stack. And once my opponent puts them there, I just check. It's like a 2 with a reroll to do the charge. I declare the charge. I roll a 2 with the reroll. Ash and Dawn go for where the Steel Legion are into the Thunder Riders. Do a bunch of impacts. Do a bunch of cleave. You can see back here 2 stands are dead. And I think there's a wound back there. You can kind of almost see it. So almost 3 stands are dead. Really good for Ash and Dawn. I'm just going to bless off anything he comes back at me. There's no one to do a follow-up. I'm probably going to win this fight because I'm just doing more damage to kill the Thunder Riders. They were benefiting from war, so they were higher resolve, higher defense, but I'm just Clash 4 with reroll 6s, and then I bless the attack rolls to reroll those 5s. You get a lot of hits. I think I got, what is it, 6, 12, 18, 19 because of the leader. I think I got 18 hits. Like, I only missed once, and I was like, okay, here we go. So it was very good. Lastly, my opponent then has the TONTORR. March Charge, does 2 damage to the objective. I'll just draw it here. And then does trample damage, kills off the objective, scores their 3 points there. They're sitting on the zones. They're getting another, 2 points there. They are no longer scoring the right side zone, but I am not scoring it either because the objective is contesting. So I'm like, okay, not the end of the world, but my opponent's still scoring more than me. I look at the March Charge for the Ash and Dawn so I look at the charge from the Ash and Dawn into the TONTORR, and it's like a 5 with a reroll, and I'm like, there's no way I'm doing that. So I just do a March Charge, get into the side of the damn thing. I only have 2 stands on the zone, so I'm not contesting, but I do 4 wounds of damage and, drop it down from 24 to 20. And I'm like, okay, TONTORR in the side is stuck fighting Ash and Dawn. Crimson Towers are just going to reform, so they are sitting like so. And then they're going to charge into the TONTORR next turn. And with the Ash and Dawn and Crimson Towers, I should be able to kill this thing, even if it is a damage sponge. The Hunter Cadre and the Imperial Officer rally, and they only just march up 5. I don't go their full march just because I want that space for the Ash and Dawn, or not the Ash and Dawn, sorry, the Crimson Towers to sit, so I'm not in the way. Because once the Crimson Towers kind of get out of there and go for a zone, my plan is to actually have these Hunter Cadre just shoot this objective, these Merc Crossbows shoot this objective, start working on that. Like, now I'm starting to look at what scenario elements I need to go kill and score and win, because I'm starting to win the engagement in the fights, and I'm starting to pick my opponent apart so that I can now shift from killing everything to scoring to make up lost points. So let's go look at turn 5, and I'll explain how I made up lost points. Here's turn 5. I do win the roll-off, and we're kind of guessing who drew, like, what card is going to go, and I'm like, I look at the table, and there are 3 engagements. Ash and Dawn on TONTORR, Apex on Crimson Tower, Thunder Riders on Ash and Dawn. And I look at it and I say, which one do I hate the most? TONTORR on Ash and Dawn, I'm probably fine. I can bless off the actual clash attack. I can probably handle the tramples, all that stuff, and I'll be fine. I have Crimson Towers over there. I can probably bring this thing down. The Crimson Towers on the Apex is going to charge me, probably do a bunch of damage. I declare this turn as my Supremacy turn, so all the Ash and Dawn have Hardened 1, and the Crimson Towers have Blessed, so they're going to be re-rolling their Impact or Clash attacks. And I'm like, Apex can probably kill them, but I'm not too worried just because I got 2 units of Merc Crossbows, I got a big block of Steel Legion who will kill it, and I'm like, yeah, it's probably fine if I lose Crimson Towers that way. And then I have the Ash and Dawn versus the Thunder Riders, and I'm like, I don't really want the Thunder Riders for some reason to break out and start going for stuff, because they'll just start, like, deathballing. So I win the roll-off. I set my stack to be Order of Ash and Dawn, Crimson Tower, and I'm just going to go from there. I probably could have done Order of Ash and Dawn, Crimson Tower, Order of Ash and Dawn, Crimson Tower, but I don't, because I'm just like, get the Ash and Dawn working, because they're going to do a ton of stuff, because they're already in engagements, and I'm thinking my opponent wants to do engagements first, so I'm just, I'm trying to play mind games with my opponent at this point. But I draw my Ash and Dawn, I look at the TONTORR, I look at the Thunder Riders, I say, okay, I'm going to fight the Thunder Riders. I inspire Clash, do a ton of damage, and drop the Thunder Riders down to 5 health. So I'm in a very good spot, probably killing them off without any problems next turn. Then I can swing my Ashen Dawn around and, you know, now fight this Apex, so I feel very comfortable. My opponent, on the other hand, activates the Apex and kills all 3 Crimson Towers. So I'm like, okay. However, that's not the end of the world. Like, Steel Legion will go over there. I activate my next unit of Ashen Dawn. They just inspire Clash, do a bunch of damage into the TONTORR, bring it down to like 9 health. My opponent then has their Thunder Riders go and deal 2 damage to the Ashen Dawn. You know, I bless a ton of it off, do a little bit of resolve, nothing too crazy. And I'm like, yeah, okay, Ashen Dawn are going to win the Thunder Rider fight. Then they can go fight an Apex with the Steel Legion support and all the Merc crossbows. That Apex is just going to get bogged down and killed. Then I can kill my opponent's objective right here to score that zone. Then I can start shifting Merc crossbows and such to this zone and kill it. Sorry, not this zone, but this objective in the middle to kill it. And I draw my next card, which is Crimson Towers. They do that reform, and then they charge into the TONTORR, doing enough damage on the Brutal Impacts and Resolve to kill the TONTORR. So this big boy, I'll just put an X through you, is dead. And I'm scoring that zone. And at that point, my opponent calls the game. They got 2 regiments left. They got a fully Apex, but surrounded by like 3 to 4 units. I've secured the left side. I'm going to start swinging those cavalry around to the right. Thunder Riders are basically dead at this point because they only got 5 wounds left. They're just getting beaten to death by Ashen Dawn. And my opponent doesn't really think they're going to be able to hold out and win the rest of the game. I believe, though, they have 13 points to my... I said it was 5, but I read the scoring wrong. It's 2 per zone and then 2 for the bonus, so I should be at 4. And then I think I was saying their stuff was 5, so they might be at like 10. I'll do it through editing. You'll see the turn in the score in the top left and right. But let's go look at the end score and I can talk more about it there. But that was kind of how the game ended and wrapped up. So here's the end score. Like I was saying, my opponent got that 13 to my 5, but I messed up reading the scoring numbers. So I should be at 4. My opponent probably is at like 11 or 12. We ended the game on turn 5 because there's really nothing else my opponent could do. So let's talk about it. So when we wrapped up this game, my opponent and I talked for a bit, and it was kind of like how you play low activation lists. One of my big takeaways when I played low activation lists at the start of version 2 is that every regiment in your list has to be doing work. You can't have anyone not achieve anything, because then they're wasted, and you can't have I don't want to say it's a loss of resources, but you can't have any like dead space. Like you can't have any like, I guess, dead weight. You can't have any dead weight in your list if you're doing low activations. Like your opponent is just gonna have too much stuff, and everything has to kill probably 2 regiments throughout the entire game to be beneficial and get away with it. Another thing my opponent and I were talking about with their list was that they spread out too much with the list. They kind of set up the Chosen of Conquest and the TONTORR on that one side, and the Apex Thunder Riders and Hunters on the other. This gave me plenty of time to just kind of wrap around their stuff and just eat it. They were talking to me that their initial plan was to have their stuff deployed and then run towards the side that was where the Queen was on the right. And I'm like, yeah, and then like, secure that and then like swing it around. Like they're trying to bait me into deploying stuff on the left. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I probably would have ran over. And we were talking about the TONTORR because they were going to leave the TONTORR on that side just because it was like a big thing that I would have to deal with. And I'm like, yeah, but like I have Ashen Dawn who will bog it down, and then I have Crimson Towers who can hit it. Like I have a very good hammer and anvil that can like kill stuff like that in 100 Kingdoms when I take in these lists. So I was very comfortable killing that thing, and then I could have just had the Imperial Officer and the Hunter Cadre sit on that zone, shoot the objective, and then the Ashen Dawn and Crimson Towers just run off to the right side, where I also have another unit of Ashen Dawn and Crimson Towers holding it. I kind of suggested to them in that scenario to grab all your stuff and just kind of make a big hammer play for one of the sides and actually go for your opponent's side, because you want to kill your opponent's objective, score their zone, and kill the middle objective. And if you can hold onto your zone at that point because you've killed those two objectives, you'll have more points than your opponent and you'll win the game by the end of the game. So that was kind of like my recommendation, but low activation lists are kind of tough. I kind of moved away from them, and having 8 regiments is kind of as low as I want to go. Because at that point you kind of have enough stuff to kind of get everything you want done, and you don't feel like you're gonna get super bogged down by a ton of stuff. Like, you guys have seen me play like 15 activation lists where it's like tons of guns and everything, but board space is a premium, so having less activations is good because you just have more places to put stuff and easier times to get through things, or just to be in like a more buddy situation with stuff. Like with the low activation list, you really need to start pairing things off with each other, and they gotta like be around each other, support themselves. Because you saw in this game how I just got Ashen Dawn engaged with stuff, got my opponent to, well, I didn't expect my opponent to actually just charge across the table into my Hunter Cadre. I was literally just setting up a scoot and shoot so that I could keep moving, shooting, backing up, keep moving, shooting, backing up, and just wherever they went, I was just going to be 18 inches away, shooting at them, being annoying. However, they did that long bomb, like 8-inch move, 6-inch move, like another 5 plus their charge distance, like all the way across the board. So as a non-Wadrhun player, be very careful about that if your opponent is playing Chosen of Conquest, because they will go places. We did talk about that though, of them doing that long bomb charge, and we kind of agreed it wasn't the proper play because they were probably fine just getting shot at, and I was okay shooting at them. They were okay getting shot at just because they have 7 wounds. They can get up to evasion 3. They they can be defensible enough to try and take the hits, but they were really planning, like I've said, they had the plan to move around to the right side of the board and help the queen out, but their other plan was to go sit on the zone, have the TONTORR sit in the zone, and just have those 2 regiments sit in the zone and say, hey, come get me. And I was like, yeah, okay, that probably would have been better, because then you're now fighting on the zone and scoring points, and you're not just throwing your regiment so far forward that it doesn't have support, where I didn't come onto the table, side charge them after my walk-on turn, and just kill them, because that's the danger of when you push very aggressively and far into your opponent's deployment when they still have stuff available. We talked about their plan of killing the Hunter Cadre and then moving in behind the Crimson Towers, and I said, yeah, that would have been very good. However, I do have Steel Legion that I totally could have dropped, walked up right beside you, rotated them, and just been an inch away so that you couldn't escape me. And then, like Chosen of Conquest versus Steel Legion, have that fight go out, and then swing the Crimson Towers to support it, or take the Crimson Towers and the Ashen Dawn and go fight the TONTORR, depending on how the dice are going. But I have that option just because I have more stuff. I have things coming out later on in the turn. I'm saying that line of engagement. Right away when my opponent, I figured out that my opponent could, do that mad dash long bomb charge, I really didn't want to come closer to them. And that's why I moved further back with the Hunter Cadre. I was just kind of I have no reason to lose the Hunter Cadre right now. I can play a longer game to win. And just due to how the scenario works on Bulwark, where it's kind of, when I played War Machine, there was active scenarios and there was dead scenarios. And active scenarios were you had to be active to win the game, because if you weren't, your opponent would just run away with the score and win. And dead scenarios, you could be a little more lenient and play those longer games, or not be as aggressive on scenarios. So Bulwark is kind of one of those scenarios where you don't have to be so aggressive on, just due to how how few things you can score on it there is. It's kind of what I found. Yeah. So, I want to say thank you to everyone for watching. Small plugs at the end. BonkTable's got a Discord. You can join it in the description below. BonkTable has a podcast. We talk about Conquest. I don't know. Maybe that's why people are here. BonkTable's got lore readings on the YouTube. I'm planning to do shorter lore readings, so just the individual stories themselves, and then if I read through all of it at some point, I'll probably just compile it all into one big video if you just want to listen to that. Makes it really easy to do. So, yeah. I just want to say thanks to everyone who watches and listens and enjoys this content, and I hope you guys all have a great day. Bye!